Hey everybody, welcome back to Northernlion Plays the Binding of Isaac Afterbirth Plus. Microphone sounds pretty good. I was laughing. If you didn't hear the last episode, you probably did, but here's a little audio warning for you. I was laughing when I listened to the video, and this is what I heard first. Hey everybody, Can you imagine if I had recorded the whole episode like that? Oh my god. That's why, I always like to look at, my audio levels while I'm recording. Sometimes people go like, why do you glance, over to your other monitors so much? Sometimes I just love to see my beautiful visage, see how the beard is coming in. And then other times, it's honestly like, you want to, every 5 minutes or so, just take a look and make sure things are still looking the way they're supposed to look. It very, that was so close. Rarely ends up mattering, but in the situation where it does, you're going to be glad you did. Let's put it that way. Anyway, we have been having... I don't want to be negative about it. We've been having some runs, that's actually pretty nice, that have been a little spotty, just from the perspective of damage. We've kind of made up for it with other items, for sure. I don't think we want to re-roll that yet. But we have not had, like, good, pure Isaac runs today. This is the third one that's kind of starting a little bit below average in that sense. We have some positive stuff. The Mr. Meeseeks on the last episode helped out a lot, but we really, like, there's no substitute for just having good stats. So I'm very hopeful. We can hold that for now. I'm very hopeful that this run is going to buck that trend, and we'll be able to just feel comfortable, just feel comfortable with how things are going. Right now, I'd say, like, we're not really there. But D20 plus, like, an arcade on the next floor, and all of a sudden, we're on the horse. Like, I don't think we re-roll that. I didn't even know it was a bloody, or not a bloody, a lucky penny first. And I'm happy to have Trinity Shield as well. Always happy to have a Trinity Shield, but need a little bit more offensive punch. It'd be awesome? Straight up, what if you gave me Famine? Oh, baby, it's Famine. Sorry, this is a new bit I'm trying out, which is let's annoy all of the audio-only listeners by misrepresenting the run. Okay, it's a little dangerous. Got ourselves in a bit of in a dangerous pickle here. I am no longer misrepresenting the run, by the way, if you're an audio-only listener. Maybe you're like, he's probably doing really well right now. We were, and then we took one hit, and things have gotten a little bit spicy. Like, for example, it's pretty bad. So originally I didn't want to use this bomb because I wanted to save our money. Now I'm like, let's use this bomb. Or let me rephrase. HP? That's not HP. I wanted to use the bomb to get to a secret room to give us money to get an arcade on the next floor. Now I'm like, nah. We needed him to die. That was actually like one of the... Oh, very, very nice at least. That's one of the harder bosses you could fight. So I will see. I hate to use a charge on it. Oh my Lanta. That's like... It's great to have, but... like now I want to go to the shop. Okay, how are we going to get to the shop? I think we want to use our charge on something to try to get a key. The good news is a bomb will also work. We're just trying to find the best possible option. Let's use it here for now. We got a penny out of it. That's really bad. It's spicy. I think we should do this room. And if we die on this room, we die on this room, okay? It's a tiny room. It's a scary thought. If I'd known that this would be our enemy, I would not have fought you. Because tiny room plus enemy that shoots bombs, very suboptimal. Like 3 silkworms at all times. This doesn't strike you as being like a little much? Well, I'm a little annoyed, if I can just be honest with you. Like, I'm a little annoyed with this run. And we lost. RKCS91. I made my decision and we lost as a result of it. You can hear in my voice. I'm very annoyed, honestly. Because I thought we were doing so well. We had so much HP. And can I tell you what killed us? It was the decision to go in there, for sure. And you're gonna turn me into, you know, being Mr. Negative right now. We basically got killed by room architecture 2 times in a row. It's borderline impossible to dodge all the shots from the Monstro. In that tiny room, you kind of just gotta hope that your damage is good and then beat him that way. Oh wait, you know, our damage, as mentioned recently, has not been good for a long time. And then admittedly, I did choose to go into the small room, and that's my bad. But the fact that we ended up fighting a mini-boss who not only creates a bunch of... I mean, basically, like 90% of the real estate on the room was compromised in one way or the other, and we couldn't get hit at all. So, I am annoyed, and I'm letting my brain, you know, work through those emotions, and... You know, I think it's important to acknowledge that even if I am annoyed, you know, the right thing to do is just to... put those feelings to the side temporarily and then get back. Because, you know, I mean, I literally... It was... Can I walk you through how today has gone for an Isaac standpoint? Had 2 half-decent fun runs, good banter, and was even on the last one talking about how nice it is that we've been having some, like, relatively consistent, stable Isaac runs. And then, you know, hey, I don't need to record anymore, but sure, let's do it. Really good idea. Really good and or smart idea. But whatever. My whininess has now been handled, and we'll move on. We'll move on. It's all right. It's just Isaac. You know, where are we at here? Like late November. By the time this video goes up, we'll get to the same streak we just had by the time we hit the new year. Maybe the DLC will be out by then. Anyway, I'm over it. I'm over it. Okay, I'm no longer over it. Can you please remove this enemy? Really? Like 2 times in a row? You're gonna give me this guy? And then Butterbean doesn't even work to push the bullets back? Okay, it did work there. Like, normally, Monstro's not so bad. He's one of the easier bosses, maybe. On the other hand, you're gonna make me be this guy, and I'm not afraid to be this guy. Perspective in Isaac does not work. You know, you're never gonna really make a willful attempt to like dodge under something in this game. So the fact that the shots come in at a, you know, on an arc is almost impossible to tell where they're gonna go. And I know that it sounds like, well, I mean, it's not literally impossible. Yeah, I believe that, but it's really tough. I mean, that was just laziness, I'll admit. But, you know, I've been playing this game for quite some time. I would not... I would rather, like, go toe-to-toe with almost any enemy in the game than try to... let me in, please. Than try to dodge under a Monstro shot. Or even just predict when a Monstro shot is going to land. Just doesn't really work, in my opinion. Anyway, this run, on the other hand, is actually really good. Not exactly doing fantastically and taking some emotional and lazy damage, but, you know, I think, you know, in spite of that, we're pretty clear. Clean and clear and under control. Remember that? I always thought it was so cool when I was a kid when you'd see, like, a commercial for those Oxy pads that you wipe on your face. And I was like 10, I'd be like, man, I can't wait to be a teenager so I can have acne too. They get to use those cool, futuristic looking pads soaked in salicylic acid. Oh, if you'll excuse me, is that a knock on the door? It is not. It might have just been a loud truck going by. I'm on PS5 watch. It's not supposed to show up till Tuesday, but I'm doing I'm waiting for Santa Claus here. I'm hoping that some act of magic brings it to fruition a little faster. Shouldn't have taken that yet. Didn't matter because we weren't going to grab this either way. Alright, I'm over it. I'm over it. I'm looking forward to playing more Isaac. And then after this episode, not playing Isaac for a few days. That's my post, you know, streak ending routine. Is that That was a good hit. That was a good hit. I, like, tough out that episode, and then I just give myself, you know, like the weekend, if possible, to not worry about it. And then by the time I come back, it seems so much smaller. Seems like, you didn't even have to worry about it, you know? What do you worry? Win, lose, or draw. So we're all just here to have a fun time. I mean, realistically speaking, 50% of the audience that, you know, watches this content is just watching it to fall asleep to regardless, so don't know why I'm so concerned with the actual outcome of the run, when really it's the outcome of the banter that matters the most. But yeah, it's weird, right? Like, because even for me, too, so, like, to fall asleep, my number one go-to is, like, these super long historical either podcasts like Hardcore History, for example, or like audiobooks. Like, so I got a lot of audible audiobooks, you know, that are basically like 75-hour long, fairly robust histories of like periods of time, right? I just got the Grant, the Ulysses S. Grant biopic, or not biopic, biography, from Ron Chernow, who is like, you know, the classic American biographer of, you know, the last 20 years. It's crazy long, but in spite of that, I know I'm gonna fall asleep in like 5 seconds, but I'm still picky. Like when I look at the table of contents, I'm like, what do I want to listen to tonight? No, I already heard the stuff about the Mexican-American War. Why don't we listen to, you know, well, Ulysses S. Grant's home life? And then it's like Ulysses S. Grant and his wife. In like 3 seconds, I'm gone anyway. But while I'm awake, I'm like picky. I'll spend like, you know, 5 minutes trying to find the perfect thing that I'm going to fall asleep to in 5 seconds anyway. Human brain is a little weird like that. Okay, it's getting a little comical. Like, it's getting just a little humorous is maybe the way I would describe it. Like, the fact that we just constantly are fighting bosses on these tiny rooms. Like, did I do something to wrong you? I have insulted the game on occasion. I'm not going to deny this. Pretty much every single time the game has deserved it, but still. You know, we can work this out. I don't understand why we gotta take such a dangerous approach. You know, we're turning up the temperature, and the pot's starting to boil. Maybe I'm boiling, but you're gonna get some splashback. Oh, that would have been a good explosion. It's one hit away. Told you. All right, so the antidote for this run right now is, what if we just got, I mean, our deal with the devil chance is only going to be at 23%, and really it's halved because of the deal with the angel chance involved. But if we could just get an insanely overpowered run, okay, this is just, I'm walking into enemies. Gotta sound that you, babe. Who'll give me mom's knife, please? Be careful. I was just gonna say be careful. That could have killed you. But then even beyond that, that almost got us. But you could easily just step on a mushroom here and like ruin your life. We don't like or respect that. We don't like or respect that. We love it. Thank you. Thank you for Plan C, an item that would cost us 1 heart to pick up and then never use. Really appreciate it. Couldn't have done it without you. Do like the bomb, though. Alright, so that was a big waste of everybody's time. This one is not a bad run, though. I'm willing to admit we're playing on a little bit of like the mega tilt hour right here. That's helpful. See, there you go. We've un-mega tilted a little bit. And this is our secret room, and this will give us enough money to perhaps get something from our shop. How about that? Alright. It's one of those... Oh, that was so bad. It's one of those things where, like, a little victory sustains you for a second, but any, like, even minor consequence, no matter how small, you're like, oh, I get it now. See, like, that could have killed us right there. I see how it is. Why don't you just spit out a fly and kill me? Clearly, you've got no respect for me, even though I threw half of my own HP away just walking into enemies for no reason. Come on. I mean, I would love to save the money for the shop, but we kind of... You gotta take a little bit of a lark here and hope for the best. There we go. Anyway, I'm actually doing well. Like, in spite of the fact that we lost that streak in an annoying fashion, we're doing well. Like, psychologically, I don't know, this might end me. Had 3 fairly tough boss fights. Of course, the positive aspect here is that all you need to do is, if you kill these guys, you're giving yourself a great chance at like a 10 out of 10 item, or even like a 5 out of 10 that happens to fit right now. Like, that is really good. That's really good. All right, we can start the recovery process now. Don't have a ton of bombs, but you always want to, like, at least take a peek for likely second secret rooms. If you get them, you get them. If you don't get them, you don't get them. It's all good. I don't know what I'm going to get up to this weekend. You know what? I want to check out that Xbox One X we got. I don't know. That I always do that. I'm like, there's no more dad logic. Like, I've slipped into the dad mode a little bit. Like, losing my wallet in my own pocket and then having my wife find it is like a caricature of a dad, right? But the other, like, heavy dad energy that I can already feel myself embodying is, like, all week looking forward to doing something and then having that thing, like, the day arrives and then you do it for like 3 seconds and then that's it. You're like, all weekend you, like, look forward to a sandwich and then you eat the sandwich and it's over, right? It's not like it's a major life. It's the same thing. I'm like, man, this weekend I should really set up that Xbox and, like, check out all the new stuff on it. I'll probably set it up and then, like, you know, play 90 minutes maximum of a game and then be like, all right, that's enough leisure time for now. Now, I will say that sometimes these Isaac comments, there's the occasional hate. Someone got me good recently, and I hate to feed the trolls, but they hit me with an incisive remark. They said, you complain about your job sometimes, but it's not a job. It's leisure time you get paid for. Now, there is a criticism that you can levy against that comment, which is anything that you get paid for is a job, really. Unless you're going to be the person, and I guess this was the point, they're gatekeeping and being like, it's not really a job, because you're not suffering. Okay, I mean, that's fine if you want to get into the nomenclatural dispute about it. But it did hit me to the core a little bit, because there's a nugget of truth in that, which is I do enjoy what I do. And to be honest, I think one of the reasons I'm able to tolerate a so-called lack of leisure time is because of the fact that this is leisure time for me. It didn't really, it didn't burn me up to read it, but I was like, this person is so close to having, like, the keys to insult me deep in my core. Keep grinding, you're almost there. Or, hear me out, stop. Either way. All this is to say that I don't mean to complain. Ooh, that's really good. But on the other hand, a lot of banter is just complaining. You know? Otherwise, what do you... Like, I feel that there's some people out there, they wouldn't be happy unless a 40-minute Isaac episode was exclusively acknowledging all the ways that I've been lucky in life and then being like, I don't deserve any of this. One day we may get to that point. And if so, I hope to see your positive comment on that video. Otherwise, I'm going to start to suspect the unexpectable, which is that you're just an angry person. Hold on. We're headed down here. This is now, I mean, to get Sack Dagger and Holy Mantle on the same floor, I have nothing to complain about anymore. The one thing I am going to complain about, in spite of that, is the fact that my speed is a little low. But on the other hand, this is now, like, it's pretty much set in stone. And I'll be honest with you, we don't deserve to win this one, but we're very likely to now. You guys see that viral tweet going around that was, it's a dunkable tweet, okay? But did you see this tweet going around that was chiding people for spending their money on a PlayStation 5 when instead they could buy LLCs, which are limited liability corporations, and a farm? I also saw a tweet that I believe was referencing this, and it said, I wonder what percentage of people would be happier on Twitter if they just acknowledged that 80% of the idiotic stuff they see is literally written by children. I don't know if this was, but it could have been a teenager or a young adult for sure. Because I don't know, like, I'm not trying to make this dunkable. For one, PlayStation 5, it's not cheap, you know, but it's $500. You could start, I guess, an LLC for $500. Like, if you already got like a business, you could probably start two, you know, by incorporating, depending on where and how you did it. But come on, you're not buying a farm for $500. I know, like, people always, they like to say things like it adds up. As long as we're talking about buying real estate, it really doesn't. Like, at least if you're buying a PS5 a week, yes, it adds up for sure. If you're buying one console every 5 or 6 years, no, it does not add up. I'm gonna be that guy. I'm gonna be the gatekeeper for does it add up or not. Let me hit you with one, okay? You start with your goal, and then you ask, does it add up? If you were trying to buy a house, does drinking 3 cups of coffee a week outside of your home add up? No, it doesn't. It does depend where you live, and I want to add in the caveat, you're not some kind of financial genius if you say everything adds up. Yes, all numbers, you know, above 0 do contribute to a rising total. But, you know, in terms of, like, is this what's holding you back? No, it's not. What's holding you back, at least, you know, depending on, again, on where you live, is the idea that, I mean, like, the average price of a home in Vancouver right now is, like, 30 times the pre-tax annual salary. So if you literally paid no taxes and spent no money, you could pay for the average home with the average salary in 30 years. Is it your coffee that's stopping you? No. It's the price of the house, and it's your salary that's stopping you, however you want to conceptualize that, you know? Is buying a console, you know, every single week gonna stop you from maybe buying a farm or starting your own business? Yeah, absolutely. But is a $500 console gonna be, you know, what? Sure, you could use the $500 to, you know, start a business, and maybe it'll work, maybe it won't, maybe that'll be what gets you. Let me put it this way: if you're spending your last $500 on the console, it's not my recommendation, especially if, you know, you handle your own personal needs, you know. By which I mean, if you're 15 and you spent your last $500 on a PS5, whatever, you know, I've been there. My parents also didn't charge me rent because I was a child, and they paid for my food because I was a child. So it's not like I was, you know, skipping out on meals or, like, going to school as a result of it. But depending on where you're at in your life, there might be a different story. But no, don't let people get in your head like that. It's crazy. I'm actually, like, more receptive to that, like, you know, grind culture than a lot of people. Like, I recognize there's two different sides of this, right? Like, people, they get sucked into the self-help side of that stuff, where they're like, if I just listen to enough Gary Vaynerchuk podcasts, like, there's no way I won't be a quadrillionaire, right? And it's seductive, even if you're, like, not doing anything about it. But then there's the flip side of people that are like, you know, we should all be working less, and, you know, the culture of working too much is harmful. I definitely agree with that as well, to be honest with you. But I do also, and I mean, this is something I'm working through on my own, I do think a lot of people could stand to do a little bit more work. I'm not talking about the person that's working like a 40-hour week at the, you know, a job that they're not necessarily a big fan of, and then I'm like, hey, what are you doing watching TV? You should start your side hustle. You should be doing Uber Eats and posting 17 TikToks every day. It's not like that. It's more like the kind of person who, like, has their own YouTube channel and they're like a Twitch channel, and they have, like, a good following, but they're, like, you know, inconsistent, and they post, like, you know, a video every 7 days or something like that. It's not even edited. I'm not going to tell anybody how to live their lives. There's a lot of YouTubers doing a lot better than me that are sticking to that model. I'm just saying, at the same time, whenever they're like, you know, whenever they're like, I hate the rise and grind culture, I'm like, well, yeah, but you could probably, like, put out 2 videos. Think of the entertainment value. But yeah, don't let it poison your mind like that. Bro, like, I hate, like, we're doing well, which is honestly great, because it means anytime I see somebody, especially, like, it happens all the time in, like, Vancouver local politics, anytime I see somebody be like, you know, hey, well, you could probably afford a house on Commercial Drive if you just stopped eating all this avocado toast. I'm like, really? Because you're like, honestly, you're too dumb to own your house. I hate to be rude to you, but you need to learn some basic arithmetic. Like, the average brunch is probably costing people like $20 once every 3 weeks. Explain to me how you're going to pivot that into paying for a mortgage that literally the mortgage is like 3 times your pre-tax income monthly. Just explain it to me. Because it's like, well, if you put it in a high-interest sales account, and then if you moved 1,700 miles outside of the city and you start, you know, why don't you just acknowledge the fact that, you know, you buy your house for the, it wasn't easy to do it, but you buy your house in, you know, 1980 when it was valued, you know, it probably was a stretch for you financially at the time, but you actually had the means in order to get there. It wasn't unattainable. And then you've benefited from like 30 years of historic real estate rises that like obviously can't continue. Like whenever people are like, well, all you got to do is, you know, you move outside of Vancouver and then you buy a house in Abbotsford, which already is like inflated, and then you wait for the house in Abbotsford to be worth more money. And I'm like, you think this is going to go up forever? How we're going to have like $9 million houses in Vancouver? Anyway, I'm getting too into my own thing. I'm just saying I love actually like making my own mortgage payment and then being able to respond to stuff like that with really, like, because, like, you're not, like, I'm not saying you didn't sacrifice to get your house in the 1970s, okay? All I'm saying is, like, if you look at, just look at the numbers. You know, if you had a $20 an hour job in 1978, you were able to afford, you know, a $90,000 house, why don't you punch those into the inflation calculator, see where they get you now? It's not going to get you as far as you think it will. Regardless, though, I apologize. It got a little too real. Everything is fine with me. I'm just, you know, the lack of acknowledging that it's... Not even, like, acknowledging that there's a problem. Because if you're, like, you know, if you don't have an opinion on whether or not there's, like, a housing crisis wherever you live, that's fine. You know, there's a lot of things that are complicated that I choose not to have an opinion on as a result of not having the relevant information or expertise. It's just when somebody thinks, like, oh, because I bought a house in the prehistoric era when dinosaurs still roamed the earth, you know, why can't you? Well, things have changed, dummy. It's like the size of the city's still the same, and, you know, 15 times more people live here. The supply and demand has changed. I apologize for calling you a dummy, but at the same time, you stop being so dumb. Like, just think about it for a second. It's just like this vague sense of superiority, you know? That's why, like, whenever I would give advice on YouTube, you know, about, like, how to start your YouTube channel, I would be like, here's what I did, and here's what I think works. But at the same time, I started in a YouTube desert where there were, like, 8 people who knew how to actually make videos. So I disproportionately benefited from the fact that there was so little competition. You know, nowadays, you're competing with, like, NBC Universal. Back in the day, it was just me and C-Nanners. Just the two of us. And even then, I was like, man, it's so hard to make it. The C-Nanners guy sucking up so much of the attention. Well, I did it. I had to compete against C-Nanners, and I still made it work. What's your excuse? It's just to, you know, acknowledge that people are going, you know, times change. Anyway. Now, that being said, do people complain too much? Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Honestly, though... To bring it back to some level of humor, I don't get annoyed when people spend too much money and complain. I get annoyed when people save too much money and complain. Like, and I'm fairly cheap myself. Like, especially when it comes to, like, buying recreation for myself. Like, I won't pay for anything. Couple of hockey games a year, that's about it. And then, you know, video games, but even then, that's kind of a business expense. But I digress. Not trying to flex, you know? But I get 10 times... Like, if somebody's like, you know, I make minimum wage, but I have this extravagant lifestyle, and I can barely make ends meet, I'm like, you know... I mean, I think you're aware of what you would need to do in order to change that situation if you desire. But if this is the way you choose to live your life, then that's fine. It's none of my business. I get 1,000 times more annoyed watching shows on, like, TLC where somebody's like, well, everybody out there, like, they have such a pompous attitude about it. Like, everybody out there is wasting money on tea bags. You don't have to use a tea bag once, throw it away. You can use a tea bag like 8 times. And then after I use the tea bags 8 times, I put it in my tea bag jar, and then I use 10 tea bags that have been used 8 times can also be used 8 times in conjunction with one. And I'm like, you know, inevitably, don't get me wrong, if that's what you gotta do to make ends meet, you gotta do what you gotta do. I'm not going, like, the bit is not like, oh, poor people. But then the real kicker is when they're like, and in her other life, she's a high-powered corporate attorney. And you're like, really? You're going on forums being like, all these suckers are posting, or are, they're paying 10 cents a tea bag when I'm getting them for 1.2 cents per tea bag. Meanwhile, you're pulling in like a $250,000 a year salary as a corporate attorney in Manhattan. Don't get me wrong, like, you do you, sister. But at the same time, maybe you could pump that money into some small businesses. I'm not saying you have to do it. It's your money. I'm just... It's the attitude on those shows that gets me sometimes. I got in a little trouble for talking about extreme couponing. I mean, that's the thing. I think any take, if you take it in the most bad faith way possible, you could be like, you know, this person hates whoever the butt of the joke is. On extreme couponing, you know, I was complaining about the, well, not complaining, but I was talking about the fact that, like, you know, if you're behind them in line, you must, like, just hate it, right? Or if you, like, work at the cash register, you must just hate it. And somebody replied to me, and they were, like, Twitter poison. So if you're listening to this, I apologize, but that was my vibe when I looked at your account to see how mad I should get that you got mad at me. It was like all of their posts were just anger, 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 anger. So I'm like, okay, if this person's going to get mad at me for extreme couponing, I'm not going to sweat it too much. But they were like, oh, I get it. I hate poor people trying to make ends meet. No, that's not what I'm saying. You know, but I do kind of, I got annoyed with the soccer mom who was like, I'm going to buy 1,000 boxes of Oreo cookies. Like, that's not really like making ends meet. I mean, I guess if you had to, like, eat the Oreo cookies, it's one thing. But then, like, on some of them, they're like, I buy 100 newspapers a week to get the coupons so that I can get all these fruit snacks for free. And I'm like, that's not making ends meet. That's like a delusion. By the way, I support it. Like, in some ways, at least. Like, I wish you could milk the business in some way, or at least the corporation, without also maybe ruining the day of the person that's running the cash register. And I mean that sincerely, because I've never done the cash register work. On some level, you're like, maybe it's nice to only have to deal with one customer. And I'm not going to judge everybody by this, but when I tweeted the take about extreme couponing, somebody did say, I used to work at Kroger during the height of the extreme couponing boom, and some people were very nice, but some people, when they started the checkout, they're like, we expect the total for all this to be under $20, and then if it came to like $21 after 3 hours of scanning the coupons in the very specific order they asked, they would tell me to put all this stuff back on the shelves. I'm not saying all couponers should be held to that standard and made to face punishment for that, but definitely, like, if you did that, that individual should be banned from the store, in my opinion. Just my 2 cents. If you soak up the one staff member and one aisle's time for 4 hours or 20 hours, it keeps getting longer every time. You should be fired, and by fired I mean fired from the store. You're not allowed to go in there anymore. I'm sorry, I don't make the rules. You can try it at the Dwayne Reed down the street. We're not going to be doing this song and dance, you know, next Thursday. Let me put it that way. Anyway. It's only the smugness that gets me. Whenever the story is like, you know, because all the shows were filmed in like 2009. Whenever they're like, oh, because of the collapse of the manufacturing industry and the recession, my husband lost his job, and that's when we started doing the couponing. I'm like, get him, sister. Get them. Make their pockets hurt. But when it's like, oh, my husband and I were just kind of bored, and I spend 35 hours a week cutting out coupons on my yacht, I'm like, you make me upset. But it's none of my business, is the other aspect. Like the tiny house stuff. Which is the other subculture TLC HGTV bubble that I have aggravated. If you want to live in a tiny house, that's completely fine. It actually does not bother me at all. It doesn't tickle me. Like, I'm not going to be like, wow, a tiny house. How cool, you know? I'm not one of those guys, but I'm you know, it's really none of my business. However, I just don't ever want to catch you on one of these HGTV shows going, it's a little small. The show is not called, you know, Normal House Hunters. It's called Tiny House Hunters for a reason. Like, sometimes they'll be like, I want a tiny house, but my one stipulation is I need to have a full kitchen with a range and an oven. Or a stove and an oven. And you're like, well, you know, where's my oven? Well, you can't fit an oven in a 65 square foot, you know, converted storage container. What? The toilet and the shower are in the same space? That's how it, like, honestly, like, did you do no research? I get that, you know, there's economic reasons for the tiny house boom as well. I'm just saying, you know, you gotta educate yourself to be inoculated from delusion as well. If I ever find myself on Tiny House Hunters... Actually, I was gonna say you would never catch me saying this, but genuinely, I would never stop saying, it's a little small. I would crank it up to maximum caricature levels. I would ask for ridiculous stuff. All I ask is for 3 bedrooms. This place has 1 bedroom, and it also turns into your bathroom. Where are the kids gonna sleep? Where am I gonna put my ping pong table? Excuse me, I asked for a sauna? You couldn't find me a tiny house with a sauna? Anyway. Dude, I wish I had it, like, I'm not really like that acerbic of a guy. I gotta stop taking damage here. But I wish I had it in my DNA to just come up with nice, wholesome commentary for like 40 minutes, 5 times a day. I can't get there without picking the butt of a joke and then being like, oh, who's under the microscope today? The only thing I will say is that as much as I maybe judge other people, I reserve a lot of judgment for myself as well. I'm my own harshest critic, and it does come up in videos sometimes. You know, I'll make fun of myself quite routinely. So if you ever find yourself being made fun of, you know, secondhand, probably not first time, I'm not going to be like, hey, you Tony, just suck it, right? If you ever find yourself being made fun of secondhand, just acknowledge, you know, hey, I make fun of myself all the time on the show, and as long as it's not hurting anybody, I really don't care, you know, what you do with your life. I'll just maybe crack a joke about it from time to time, and we'll all have a nice laugh. And then you'll be like, whatever, Baldy, and I'll go, hey, that's a personal attack. Anyway, for now, thanks for watching. I hope you guys have enjoyed the episode. If you did, click the like button. Helps out a great deal. Of course, subscribe if you want to see more in the future. For now, thanks for watching. I'll see you next time. See ya.